I threw up my wallpaper on this one was the good old Ralph Wiggum, the "I'm in danger," but I guess that's more Dak Prescott these days, with maybe his own fans.
Yeah, yeah. So one Dakota Prescott, the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, was injured last night after playing a putrid start to his team's opener against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, Dak was 14 of 29 for 134 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. He was sacked twice behind that vaunted offensive line. And then he broke his thumb.
Was he
And
sacked or was he decked?
oh, I like that. I like Smack Dak. That's my personal favorite is Smack Dak.
Breaks his thumb or fractures his thumb, whatever the heck it is, but he's gone for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
Cooper Rush is in line for the starts from, I guess, the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then
Yeah.
I can't remember who the heck I don't know, Billy something. I don't know.
I don't remember who the backup to the
I don't
backup
know,
is.
and I don't care. But Cooper Rush,
Yeah.
I don't know that he's gonna. I watched part of that game last night before we started recording, and they didn't look good at all. Not to say that Tampa looked any stronger, but they put up a field goal.
Yeah.
19-3, I think was the final. So
I
yeah,
mean, and let's be let's be clear and honest and concise on this. Neither of us is happy that Dak got hurt.
no, of course not. No, it's just one of those unfortunate things, obviously.
Right. Like we're never rooting as much as I hate Dallas, as much as Tom hates Dallas, we're never rooting for anybody to get injured. It's not like he's a bad dude off, like if it was somebody like Pac-Man Jones or like Greg Hardy, then yeah, if he blows out his knee and then he's done, whatever, that's no big loss because they were pieces of shit. But this, by all accounts, Dak Prescott is not a bad person. He does a lot of charity work and does a lot for the community. And you don't want to see somebody's career disrupted due to injury.
Right.
That being said, last year when Dallas played the Niners in the playoffs, there were some questionable calls, and Dallas fans were throwing trash at the refs. And Dakota Prescott cheered them on, or basically like said, "Hey, yeah, do you blame them or something?" But he was basically saying, "Yeah, the fans were right to throw trash at the refs." And then when he was leaving the field with an injury, people were throwing trash at him.
Yeah, it's really wild. You know, look, rough game, whatever. I think as Eagles fans, we've always gotten the brunt of, throw trash and batteries and this junk. Look, it happens in a lot of places. And I think now you have a certain contingent of Cowboys fans, or maybe there's some other fans peppered in. Who knows? I don't know. But that now they're just mad, because how many years do you have without even sniffing the Super Bowl?
Right.
That's a long time. So I think, they pumped all these resources in. They basically gave this guy the crown. He's the heir to the whatever. And not a whole lot going on, is there? So
No. And not to mention all of the fights that were taking place in the stands during the game amongst Cowboys fans, Cowboy fan on Cowboy fan violence. There was a video of a giant brawl that I don't know if you saw or not, but there's a video making the rounds of a giant brawl of all just Cowboys fans just beating the piss out of each other. So, next time the national, now obviously if this happened in Philly, it'd be the biggest story that ever happened in sports.
of course.
But it's Dallas, so they look the other way. But let's talk about one other thing too. The NFC East right now, the Eagles won.
Yeah.
The Giants won.
Man, that was a crazy
And
finish too.
yeah. And the Commanders won.
Yeah,
Which means there's one winless team in the NFC East.
See, I really put my thinking cap on. It might be Dallas, but I don't know.
Yeah, so it's one weekend,
Right.
and you and I have our hot take ideas on certain things. There's even been I was reading some articles today on how the Eagles supposedly the Eagles defensive coordinator is on the hot seat already. Um, and so Vic Fangio, who was a defensive coordinator for multiple teams, um, Fangio, sorry, he was most recently the head coach, I believe, in Denver. He was at training camp this summer, and he was talking with Howie, and he was talking with Nick Sirianni, and he was talking with some of the players and stuff. Maybe there's talks that maybe he's in line to take over for Gannon if Gannon starts to slip up. Which after the first week, dude, honestly, pull that fucking plug. I was ready to pull the plug on him last year, and I think we were both surprised that he was getting calls because he got calls. People were saying stuff all season about it, or all season about him potentially being a head coach in
Mm.
other places,
Mm-hmm.
and all I can figure is they said, well, they didn't have the offensive talent or defensive talent, excuse me, to perform, but he's a great leader of men. And the only comparison I can make is Doug Peterson, where Doug Peterson, in my estimation, wasn't the offensive mastermind behind that Super Bowl winning Eagles team. That was Frank Reich. If you ask anybody,
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. Yep.
but where Doug Peterson excels is being a leader of men. And that's something you can't really quantify with stats or anything like that. That's a feeling thing, and that's an emotional intelligence thing, and something that you have to see. It's an intangible thing, but you can tell when it's there and when it's working, and that's why he got. Honestly, if he wanted to have a job last year, he definitely could have. Somebody would have hired him as a head coach as soon as the Eagles dropped him.
Right.
You know, um, but I think that's maybe what other GMs are thinking with Gannon is maybe he's a good leader of men, but he ain't a good leader of defenses.
Yeah, I don't know. The Peterson thing's interesting. I'm glad to see that he is coaching again. Jacksonville's a good fit, I believe. You got a pretty relatively young squad there to work with. So, Trevor Lawrence is a nice quarterback to have kind of under your tutelage, I guess. I don't really expect too much, and I don't think that they really do either. I think they're just kind of seeing what they have. Obviously, he has a job because he's a ring. But I think you're right. I mean, he does. He's got the good leadership qualities, the stuff that you're not really putting on paper at all. And so I think outside of the ring, that's probably the other reason why he's, you know, back with a head coach spot. I don't know. But I guess the interesting thing to me is that he's gone, comes back, and then has that crazy game against his former quarterback, who just completely goes off the rails with a insane offensive performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not to say I told you so, and it's one game. So anything we're saying right now is really an overreaction. You don't want to get too high or too low after the first week because we've seen teams that are going to be good just completely shit the bed this week. It happens every year, every opening weekend. Good teams inevitably lose to bad teams, and that's just how it goes. But I did say that Carson Wentz was going to turn it around in Washington, and
Yeah.
so far he's off to a good start.
Yeah.
Granted, he had a good season last year in Indianapolis. What was he, 27-7 as far as touchdown to interception ratio?
Something like that.
Right? It was just that the last game of the season. When it came down to it, and towards the end of the season, he started to fade a little bit. In that last game of the season against the Jaguars of all teams, he ended up completely shitting the bed. And
Yeah.
that cost him a playoff spot.
Right. And I think really, and I've said this before here, but my thing with him is durability. I He could have a fantastic first 12, 13 games, and then get hurt or just go down, or like you said, he starts fading out. I just don't know that. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he does, bring a lot more success than I think. But that was a heck of a first week. So kind of in a bubble. I mean, maybe he's back. I don't know. And then you're right. He did have a good season last year. But yeah, when it came to brass tacks. But speaking of football, we did. We've got a good conversation coming up that we're going to do, video game related. But we did kind of in the process of wrapping up week 1 of our Noise Brigade fantasy league. The insane 20 team thing that was put together, and of the 3 of us, between you, the Harley Quinn guy, and me. The only one that holds a possibility of winning is me, and I don't know that that's going to happen because as we record this, I am currently up 79.8 to 78.2, and Reebok still has Melvin Gordon with a little over 14 left in the fourth. So
Yeah, it's I mean, you've got the possibility. Richie and I both got smoked. Richie less so than I. Richie got beat by Justin, 118.8 to 94.7. I got beat 128 to 92.2. You're holding on. Hopefully you win because I'd like for one of us to win a fucking game.
I know.
Danielle is smoking Damon, like absolutely smoking. She's got 126.1. He's got 107, and she still has 13 minutes left of action. Let's see who else do we have here. So Metcalf's calves are up on you play to win the game, 119.8 to 108.8. I don't think that one's going to change. I think Metcalf's calves. So Zach is going to come away the winner there. Bink lost his game, 98.7 to 85.2, with Tyler taking the win there. Holy hell.
Yeah.
Horror bad.
Just
145.8 to 107.3. I'm pretty sure that Gabby would have beat just about any other of the winning teams. Well, not any of them, but I mean,
but
like
a good chunk of them.
She'd have taken out a good chunk of people with that 107.3 score. Then you've got Kyler losing 84.5 to Vinny. That's Richie's brother. So 84.5 to 81.2. And Vinny still has 12 minutes left of action. Good God, Florida man, 121.2 beats Aaron Shiny Balls, 113.3 or 113.3. She's still got 12 minutes, but I don't think she's making up that 8 points.
No, I don't.
We already
I
talked
don't
about
think
Justin
so.
whooping on Richie, and then in a battle of dispatchers, dispatcher and call taker, Marie is beating Laura 101 to 90.2 with 12 minutes left for both of them. So the Liska's Liquors versus Sunday Blues. It's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. I had to crack up looking at the score between me and Reebok, because flipping through all the other scores, I believe me and him are the 2 lowest.
Yes,
we're the only ones in the 70s, and but that's a great part. I use that as an example of fantasy football. You can have a low score and still win.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that the following week you're going to have the same low score, because you could have a Justin Jefferson type performance and get 44 points.
Right.
I made this comment to Danielle though about my team. My team was pretty much all Jamar Chase. Of my 79.8 points, he got 33.9 of them. So,
well, I mean, and even me, like I had a relatively low score, 92.2. I would have beat 6 of the other teams in our league.
Right.
I'm losing the game. Now and then the person that beat me would have lost to, let's see, one. So there's one other team that he would have lost his game to if he would have played them, That's Chris. So, um, there it's that's what I try to explain to people when they were like they're worried about like especially the first timers like, oh well, what if I don't do good, dude? Nobody knows. You know, it's all luck. There's skill involved, but eh, you could have the best team in the world, but if every single one of those people gets hurt or they have bad games and everything, you control the controllable, which is drafting players that have a good upside.
Right.
You
And
just hope that they meet that upside.
I'm going to go on a limb here. This is my prediction for our league here. We invited you into Chris's league last year, and your first year in, you won.
Mm-hmm.
Chris gets the invite on this league. What do you think? This is his revenge.
I think that's true. That's a good point, man. He very well could. I think it's kind of funny. There's 3 teams who their ranking hasn't changed since the draft, or since before the draft. And those teams are Richie's team, so the domestic abusers, Team Harabad, and then bringing up the rear at number 20, Kyler.
poor Kyler. And he
So like,
didn't really
I mean,
lose
I've
by that
gotten
much
worse.
this week.
I dropped from 16 to 19 from between the draft and now. And so I don't have much more room to talk, but at least I've made a difference in my team. Kyler he's been shit since the day we started, and he hasn't changed it one way or the other. So I mean, I guess he can't get worse, so that's good.
That's right. Yeah, there is no 21 spot. So
fuck, I'm down to 19 now. I gotta work on this shit.
But no, so let's chit chat. So you and I have obviously over the course of doing this have talked quite a bit of video games, and particularly one thing we started early on episodes talking about NFL 2K5, which obviously that's if that's not your favorite game of all time, I know it's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan of it too. I just haven't played it in a long time. But I guess we should kind of do a quick little refresher here as to what we're going to get into, comparative to what your thoughts are, because I only have very limited interactions with any current football video games. I don't really play them, and other than watching like little videos here and there, I just really have no frame of reference. But ESPN NFL 2K5 was like basically the last, other than Madden, mainstream released licensed NFL video game. And 2K5 meaning, yes, 2005. So you're talking a lot of years ago now. And then does it have, the insane thing I still think about with that game was that when it was released, it had the craziest price point of $19.99. And now you're talking about you picked up Madden for the current year. What is that? $60 now? $70?
$70. I got it for the Series X. So $70 for the next gen system, so PS5 and Xbox Series X or Series S. It is still 60 for the current gen, I guess. I don't know. I feel like the next gen, current gen, it's probably current gen and previous gen at this point.
Gotcha. So, all right. So here's what I want to do. I want to kind of throw some questions your way. Just more of a, an apples and oranges comparisons is most likely going to happen, because we're talking about a game that's almost 20 years old to a game that's current. So I realize there's going to be a lot of differences there. You can't really weigh them exactly the same, but they are both football video games. So I think you can make some apples to apples comparisons, but I know overall it may end up being like an apples to oranges. So I want to hear your pros on Madden for this year. Like, what do you really, really like about it?
Pretty.
Just looks.
It's pretty. I honestly, the game, I feel like the gameplay is a little bit more advanced. The actual football to it is more advanced, and it's pretty. But that being said, there's so many glitches and there's so many issues with it that the good is almost outweighed by the bad.
Okay.
Um, Now I've been trying to just give it a shot because I do. It is more pleasing to the eye. It really is, and the football itself is fun. You just got to get past all the glitches and stuff. So now by glitches, oh, and the soundtrack is fucking atrocious. Like I'm not the target demo for the soundtrack. Clearly.
Right. And I don't know that many video games that are going to be released now that either you or I are going to be. So,
But it's like I mean, look, there's rap that I like. There's rap I like, there's hip hop that I like. None of the songs on the soundtrack even remotely appeal to me. I've shut them all off. It's all just the generic background music. But even that, one of the glitches that I've been running into is randomly songs will re-add themselves. So I go through and I take them all out, and then I'll be playing, and I'm like, "What the fuck am I hearing right now?" And it's something that added itself back in. So it's an annoying little thing, but with all the annoying little things that happen, it adds up to a lot. So you've got that. Today when I logged in, I'm on season 2, I think. I'm like in week 11 or week 12 of my second season because I started a franchise. It When I signed in, it had me in the preseason of season 1. Yeah. What I wasn't happy with that. That made me a little angry. But I realized, okay, well, my other saves are still there, but those saves for some reason, the um, the date on it had like a December 31st of 2019 date.
Oh, that was like yesterday.
That's okay. It's only what 3 years
Yeah,
prior to the game's release that I was playing it
it's
apparently.
probably accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, So that happened. There's consistent errors in cutscenes, which you have to go through, where you'll be talking to a player, and so I'm playing obviously as the Eagles, and the player will have like all kinds of weird janky ass stripes all over their jersey, and the name will be wrong. Sometimes the name is like off centered and it's the wrong name for the player. Um, Sometimes there's graphical issues with the player's face. As Nick Sirianni is sitting down talking to the player, his cell phone will magically fly down a hallway and into his hand.
That's
And at
awesome.
first, I didn't realize. I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" I'm like, "Was that like? I don't know what that was." And then I kept seeing it, and it's happened every fucking time. The cell phone magically just randomly will fly down, and I keep trying to get a video of it, but I can't determine when it's going to happen. But it
Mm.
always fucking does. All of a sudden, his cell phone is just like, and then so there's that. There's the fact that every single time you make any roster change at all, so if I sign somebody to the practice squad, it resets my entire roster to my starting lineup and my depth chart. It reorganizes my entire depth chart every time I make a change. So every time I make a change, I've got to go back in and rearrange my lineup back to how I want it.
Yeah, that's awful. Ooh.
In as much as it makes my punter my kicker. I don't want that. There's been I sent you that video of one of the commanders. It was a defensive, or they were on defense, or I don't remember how it played out, but it was their player versus my player going for a pass, and they get near the sideline, and then all of a sudden their player just like it's like somebody lassoed him and yanked him off the field.
Yeah,
He
that
just
was awesome.
disappeared into the sidelines, and it's like, what the fuck was that? At times, the aim indicator for kicks for both kicks, punts, PATs, field goals, everything disappears. And once it disappears, you don't get it back until the next game. And
Really?
it's not like they have the momentum meter thing at the top where like as your team does better or worse, you can get positive or negative effects for it. It's
Hmm.
not that because mine is maxed all the way out to the positive and I still don't have it back. So at first I thought maybe that's what it was. It was some kind of like kicker nervousness thing, but it's not. It's just a glitch. Um, I tried to do a challenge and it's Nick Sirianni, and everything in the game it says Nick Sirianni, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they go, "Well, Doug Peterson's going to challenge that play." I'm like, "No, he's not. No, he's not." Um, when if there's a penalty on a turnover, so say I pick the pass off and I'm running back, and one of their players, does a horse collar tackle or holds or something like that. It says it confused the shit out of me the first time it happened. It says holding on the defense. So I'm like, oh fuck, all right. Well, I guess we're not going to get guess we're not going to get the ball back. No, when they said defense, they were talking about the offense that just threw the ball to the defense and then became the defense because we had the ball, so now we were the offense.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I didn't know whether or not I was if I and I'm like, wait, why is it giving me the option to decline or accept? And then it automatically just did it for me because I took too long because I'm stupid and can't figure out what the fuck the game's trying to do. So it automatically did it for me. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess technically that's right. But it's little stupid shit like that that just makes it makes it very unenjoyable. And then like even the menus aren't easy to navigate. The menus, if you back out of one level of menu, instead of taking you back to the next level, you're all the way back to the start of the menu.
Mm.
It's just little quality of life shit that's just it's really fucking annoying.
That's one of the things I noticed with the show. And the tiled menu interface stuff. I didn't care for the later versions of that. So I have a big thing for that too. It should be very easy to navigate. Hey, here's what you go to for this, this, and this. Be done. But going back to NFL 2K5, which we've talked about extensively on here, and that game was heralded on its release for tight gameplay, and all the really cool like extra stuff. Even down to the celebrity game stuff or whatever. Is there anything in this newest iteration of Madden that is like a cool extra that you found, or is it just straight up football?
Honestly, here's the thing. I don't get into the Madden Ultimate Team or the online features or any of that stuff. And that's what people are really buying this game for. Or the my superstar, whatever the hell it is called, where you make your own dude and take them through their story. I don't do any of that shit. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to play a franchise. What I'll say is I think it's a cool idea where they have development traits, and so like it'll say, all right, this player progresses at this speed because they're this level of player. So there's normal, star, superstar, and then super duper star. I don't know what the top level's called. But they gain extra experience. It has almost like RPG aspects to it, where as you progress, you earn XP, and then you have to choose. Like you get to choose what type of characteristics you want to see improve. So for offensive linemen, for instance, you have agility, strength, power, and pass protect.
Mm-hmm.
You select which one of those you improve after you build up so much XP, and then you can that's how you improve your stats for each
Gotcha.
player. And as they get better and better, they can move up from like normal to star and from star to superstar and so on and so forth. And then once they get to the highest level, they can earn perks. So like for running backs, it might be they're able to use a special juke, and then once they're in the zone, they can use a special juke. Well, this perk lets you use that special juke twice, and then you like that kind of stuff. But
Right,
there's
right.
different perks and different things you can do for each player based on how they're set up and how they're laid out. That's pretty cool. I think that the scouting in it's a little the scouting is I haven't dug too deep in. It's a little bit complicated for me, and I want to do a little bit more digging on it and learn more about it. But I think that has the potential to be really cool because it breaks down the country into different regions, and you have different scouts who specialize in different positions, and you get to send them out. Like, so say there's a bunch of defensive ends in the Pacific Northwest that you want your scouts to check out. You send your scout that is an expert on defensive ends up to that region, and then they go to all the games and scout and report back to you. So the draft stuff I feel like is pretty cool. Another cool thing is there's you can manage your staff. So obviously you've got your head coach, and you can either make your own head coach or you can be one of the head coaches in the league. And then so they're actually in the game. The offensive and defensive coordinators are just randomly generated, and then you have the ability to um, also change your GM, not change who it is, but you can unlock different perks for your GM.
Okay.
So through what they do is they give you different targets you have to hit during the game, and you get to select them. But like it's get 15 first downs, get 400 yards of total offense, allow less than 24 points, and you get points for that. And then you can spend those points to upgrade your GM, your offensive coordinator, and your defensive coordinator. And so, like for instance, there's a ability tree, and you can select um, every all of your offensive linemen get an extra 2% or an extra 5% XP for every practice you run, stuff like that. And you get that through spending these points on your defensive coordinator and your GM. Or like you get an extra 5% value when you trade draft picks versus players or whatever. It's all these different things. So there is some cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. I like the football overall better, but it's everything else, which it sounds stupid to say, oh, but I like 2K5 better because everything aside from the football is better. But in 2004, when that game came out, it had the cutscenes in the halftime show, right? And it had the halftime show. It had the cutscenes in the sports center that it did every week, and it had draft updates and everything through all of that. In this game, there's no highlights, there's no nothing. And I just kind of feel like if we could do this in 2004 on the original Xbox and PS2. Now PS2, if you didn't have the hard drive, it was just still shots, but still they did a whole halftime show. In this, they go through some scores and they say, "Oh, so and so threw for 5 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever." It's Jonathan Coachman, by the way, which I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
But it's so Jonathan Coachman does the halftime show. But in this game, you don't even they don't even do the kickoff or I'm sorry, the coin flip. So what happens is you you pick ahead of time, and granted, and this is so nitpicky, and I feel so stupid for being angry about it, but they hide the coin toss. So what happens is you pick what you would do if you won the coin toss, and then it just does it, and you don't see any of it, and it just tells you when you start the game, oh, you're kicking off or you're receiving. And now that's like a super minor thing, but going back to the original Tecmo Bowl, there's been a coin toss,
Yes.
and you've
Yeah.
been able to select at the time. Because here's the thing, maybe for this particular game, if I'm getting the ball, or if I have the opportunity to get the ball first, I want the ball first. Or maybe for this particular game, I want to defer because of whatever the situation is. But it's like, let me pick in the moment so I can decide what to do.
Yeah, that's a very simple thing too, because that was like, before we even started recording, I said, "Hey, I interject some notes about Tecmo Super Bowl," and that's one of those things like you could pick, like what do you want, heads or tails, and
Right.
then what do you want to do with it? You had that option, like in 1991, in
Right.
that in at the very base part of the beginning of the game. Um, so yeah, that's a little wild to me. Is that you're here 30 years later, and here's where we're at with it. Did have one thing on it though, so I was really curious. Um, and again, this is my own, like, I really don't know modern football games because I just have not played one in a long, long time. But tell me if this is has if you know this, and I don't know because we talk a lot of fantasy too, since we have our own league. Is there a feature in these other than, like, look, I know there's fantasy drafts in video games. It's like draft, let's just wipe the rosters out and draft your own teams. That's something you and I have done for years and years and years, playing games and whatever. But is there like an another layer? Like, how like you have like the real NFL season and we do the fantasy draft to have our fantasy leagues, right? Like how we have them. But in the video game itself, let's pretend that that's real. And then is there another layer where, like, you can say, "Oh, I want to have a little fantasy league within that realm"?
Hmm. So you mean not doing a fantasy draft?
Right, right. Not redoing your rosters, but actually having like another layer. And it's like, oh yeah, you can kind of have this little fantasy thing going on the side that's not really related to your team, but you can still pick players from different teams. And then, kind of like you do fantasy football now, except it's not related based on.
Gotcha.
Does that make
No,
sense?
there's not, but that would be pretty cool.
I just think it'd be fun. Like, I know you could, like, obviously really mess with it and, like, oh yeah, I've picked this quarterback and then all I'm going to do is throw the ball. Or I picked this, running back and he happens to be on my team that I play all the time. So all I'm going to do is run it. You could really mess with it. But like in the grand scheme of things, you really couldn't for every game, I guess, unless you played every game or whatever. But I don't know. I always thought that would be kind of a neat little add on.
I'm surprised they haven't put that in there, honestly. Um, One of the things that is cool that you can actually sign up for online leagues, like online franchises,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like with like World of Warcraft and stuff, where everybody sets up and they have, all right, this on such and such a day we're going to play, and this is, you've got to be available for from this time to this time to play your game or to play however many games, and and they conduct league business like a real league. Um, so that's out there, and you can do that with friends. Like you and I could set up a league um, where we each take over an NFL franchise, and we go about our business and stuff. Um, and you can do it with random strangers. You can do it with people however you want to do it. Uh, but again, I
It's
don't know enough people that have it.
right. It's a really cool concept. But yeah, it's one of those things that, like, um, I saw that with the show as well, that you could do something very similar, where you could have like your own leagues and stuff. But it was the same deal, exactly what you said. Like, you have to be here Tuesday at 7, you know, which I get. Like, if that's how that's going to work, I mean, obviously you're playing each other, right? I mean,
Right.
um, I don't know. It's really it's a neat concept. I like it, but kind of in the same boat. Like, and I don't know that I would actually devote the time to do it. It's like, yeah, it might be cool for 2-3 weeks. I give up on it. Like, oh, I forfeit. Sorry.
Yeah. Because you know what? That's the other thing too. Not to, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a douchebag, but like, you and I have our jobs and we have other responsibilities outside of those jobs and things that we need to do that require our attention. So, yeah, we game a lot, but there's people out there who fucking devote their lives to this shit. And I
Yeah.
just can't see it being fun to be in a league with people like that where they're fucking playing nonstop and there's they know every little exploit, they know every single move they can make to rig it in their favor. And it just like you're not going to beat them no matter what you do.
Right. No, that's one of the what you just said is one of the main reasons why I do not like to online game at all, really, outside of things like Fall Guys or just really simplistic type things. Because I look, I don't have the time to devote to and I'd like to try and play different things as I can, but I've always been hey, I want to play a one player Skyrim type thing for me. Like I can have my own little escape in that little world, but I'm not going to go sit there and hop on Call of Duty to get smoked
Right.
by somebody that's been playing 22 hours out of the day. Because I know
Right.
there's people that do that. I know that.
Well, and that's why I stopped getting Call of Duty. Besides the fact that it just stopped being fun, is I got tired of going online, and I just got the game, just got out of line from waiting at the midnight release at GameStop, and dude who already somehow knows every single map is just lobbing grenades over a wall at me and hitting me in the head with them because he knows, oh well, when they spawn, this is where they're coming out. Like it stopped being fun when people took it so seriously because then it
Yeah.
becomes frustrating for the casual player.
Right. And I that was one of those games I saw that years ago with it was like, oh yeah, I picked it up. It's kind of cool, like a beginner's luck type stuff. It's like, yeah. And then you run into people that are like, oh yeah, well if you do this, and this, it's like, what? Like I didn't know that you could actually hit those buttons and do anything. I'm just trying to not die. you know.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I think it's a cool like it's cool to see with what you're talking about with like the really advanced upgrades and graphics and stuff with Madden. And now they've re-announced, or excuse me, they've announced, the release for NCAA football again, which is awesome. That's going to be probably the next football game I actually buy. It's really strange. I don't really care too much for the new Madden games. I've periodically picked one up. I haven't in a while. I just don't like them. Um, I don't watch college football at all, but I loved, and I mean loved NCAA football like 03, 04, and because you had like 100 plus teams you could mess with.
Right.
What world am I going to sit there and be like, yeah, I want to be the Furman Paladins today? But damn it, I did it, or the friggin' Richmond Spiders or some other
Right.
crap team, you know?
I think 2008 was the one that I really liked. But yeah, I played NCAA 2008. I wouldn't touch Madden. And honestly, you know what? So two more little tidbits on Madden, and then we can move on to talking about NCAA or whatever else. Um, Two things that I need to see. Number one, iron out the glitches. Like another thing that I tried to do, but I can't seem to get it to work, is I went into the menu to try to turn off the accelerated clock because what it does is between plays, like say you know exactly what play you're going to call, you go in, you pick the play, you go. It automatically, even if you only took 2 seconds in real time, it automatically runs like 8 to 10 seconds off the clock. And then so you can get yourself in an issue with the play clock or with the real clock, depending upon you know what's going on. And I went into the menu and tried to turn that off, and it will not turn off no matter what I do. The other thing is, again, we're in 2022. 2K5 came out in 2004. It had a creation suite for music where you could use your own music that was on your hard drive in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you could clip certain parts to make it the what they play at kickoff, what they play, during a touchdown, after a first down, after a failed fourth down conversion. Like the amount of customization was ridiculous. And it's nowhere to be found.
Oh
Not
no,
even
yeah, that
adding
stuff's
their own music.
long gone. And that wasn't the only games that did it. Wrestling games had that.
Mhm.
I'm pretty certain that some of the versions of the show had that. You could have custom walk-up music or just custom music in general that was from your own collection. Yeah, no, that part is, you're right. That's gone. And I like, part of it's because everything went to streaming.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't like us and have, 100 gigs worth of stuff or whatever, but um no, it's wild, like the the features that you kind of thought. And here's, I guess it's where this, to me, this where this goes, is that you had all these really cool features and you just made an assumption basically that they were always going to be there,
Right.
and year after year after year. And guess what? Like, the stuff that we thought was cool, and maybe it's because like they did something else with it, or they just, obviously it wasn't like a, hey, we pulled this many users. How often do you use this? Maybe it wasn't used that often. I don't know. I don't know how they do that. But no, all I know is like my frame of reference for the new stuff comes from you or whoever watching videos or whatever, just to see if I might even be somewhat interested. But man, like, honestly, the best football game um, recommendation you gave me in the last year or so has been Retro Bowl. So
Oh, another glitch that just popped in my mind. And let me say this too. It's not like we haven't talked about the glitches that happened in NFL 2K5. There was a point where I had to restart my franchise because of a glitch that made it so that I couldn't run plays. That every time I called a certain play, it would lock the game up. And it's not like it's the most stable thing in the world on Xbox 360. If I'm playing it on an original Xbox, we're good to go. But on Xbox 360, it crashes all the time. Um, but in Madden 2022 or 2023, actually, my bad. I feel like we shouldn't have to worry about the quarterback for the CPU team getting stuck and not being able to get set for the snap and getting a delay of game penalty because it's sitting there vibrating because it can't. If for whatever reason it's stuck on a pixel or something and it won't, and the quarterback won't go to his position to receive the snap, and that's something that happened too. So
I tell you what, those the glitches are great, but like you said with the video, I've watched different videos too, Twitter, whatever I find them on, but it cracks me up. I hate to say that's not gonna be one of those things I run out and just not. I try to about every 5 years or so. Just
well, there
I
was it was a kind of like a perfect storm of happenstance that caused me to get it. Number one, it has John Madden on the front of it. He's the
right.
cover
It's
person.
probably one of the best covers in years.
Right, absolutely. And so between that and when I went to Target that day, if I bought a bag of Doritos, which I was planning on buying anyway, you got $15 off the game. So I said, you know what? I'm saving $15. I'm getting the Doritos anyway, and I'm gonna get the game because Madden's on the cover. All right, let's do this. Let's try it out. I'm ready for football season. Let's dig in. And listen, I mean, the football itself is good. Football itself is good. It's better football than what's in 2K, and I feel comfortable saying that. That said, it's so rough around the edges. There's so many glitches. It's I'm playing it over 2K because I've been playing it and I kind of want to see where it goes at this point. Like I want to see how much I can abuse it, how much I can, because the football is enjoyable and it is that much better than 2K on the football front. And so I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. But at the same time, and plus I get to play with the new weapons that the Eagles have, which I'm at the point that I'm at in 2K, I think maybe 25% of my team is still like actual NFL players and the rest of them are all computer generated from drafts.
Right.
So, like, I've
Just
got, you know, I'm not even using real people anymore.
right, right.
And so it kind of that takes some of the fun out of it. Where in this one, if I'm playing as the Eagles, I'm playing as Jalen Hurts and throwing to AJ Brown or to Devontae Smith or to Dallas Goddard or Grant Calcaterra. And you were right; it's Calcaterra. It's not Calcaterra. I
Yeah,
thought it was,
sometimes I'm right on pronunciations, not all the time.
but there's something to be said. Rushing the passer with Hassan Reddick versus Joe Blow, that has the same face as 15 other players in your team because apparently their creation software would only allow them to create 5 different faces in 2K. Um, like it was it's more fun to play the football, but the other stuff is lacking. And I
Gotcha.
really wish that it was, or I would have hoped that it was better at this point because I feel like it's even probably a step down. It is a step down from the last time I really played Madden, which was like, what was the one with McNabb on the cover? 06.
Oh yeah, geez, yeah.
06. Because in 06, and I think I played some 07, there was they did like radio shows in between the games and stuff, and they had all kinds of like little features, and you don't have any of that. Like they had coaches calling into the radio show that was on the video game and talking about like, oh well, this we do this on defense for this reason and blah blah blah, stuff like that. Oh yeah, that shit in this one.
Yeah.
You
That
have glitchy cutscenes.
yeah, that kind of bums me out. Uh like we made the comment before. It's like, you kind of anticipate that the stuff's gonna stay with it. Even if you don't buy it for 3, 4 years, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that from 2012. It ain't there anymore. I mean, so okay, so we kind of went through the football stuff. Let's kind of wrap this up for the night here on speaking of video games, kind of real quick. Are you playing anything fun, different, interesting, other than Madden?
Madden and I got the Cowabunga collection. So the Turtles Cowabunga collection for the Switch. I messed around with that, and that's it is what it is. It's what I expected it to be. It's fun. It's the old games. So if you didn't like them then, you're not going to like them now. If you did like them then, there's a chance you may or may not like them now. Nostalgia is going to rule the day, and your mileage may vary depending upon how into it you are. Um, I just got a notification on my phone while we were recording that Bug Snacks for the Switch will be here in 2 days. So I don't know if that means 2 days is in like Thursday or if it means 2 days is in Wednesday. But I should have it by the weekend and I'll be able to dig in because I never played it. I never ended up playing it on the PS5.
Right, I actually downloaded it because it came with the PS Plus Extra thing. I noticed it last month, so I downloaded it. Tommy played it a little bit, so
So I kind of feel like that's a Switch type game anyway. Like I feel like certain games kind of lend themselves better to certain systems,
yes,
and I kind of feel like that game seems like it belongs on the Switch, even though I know there's a darker backstory to it that I don't want to say just because I don't know. I don't know how far you have looked into it, and I don't know if anybody who's going to listen has wants to play it and hasn't, and I don't want to spoil it. But it's not as rosy as it seems on the exterior.
yeah, no, I've watched him play a little bit. I really haven't delved into knowing much about it. I've always heard it. As a pretty well known title over the last couple of years anyway. So, but any music things that you're digging right now these days?
I've been listening to a lot of. It's funny. I've been listening to us. I'm listening to our podcast, try and get the listen numbers up, and I just want to see how we sound. Because some of the stuff we'll record stuff and I'll forget it. Like I'll forget that we even talked about it. So it's fun to go back and listen to some of them. But no, I've been just doing shuffle on my phone, and I've got some. It's come across some Audio Slave that I haven't heard in a while. Some stuff by Muse that I haven't heard in a while. I think it was City of Delusion. Let me see. I'm gonna look at my phone real quick and see which song it is. But like some just older stuff that I'm just, you know, seeing again for the first time, I guess is one way to say it. Um, and I'm gonna go out on I'm gonna put myself out there. Yeah, City of Delusion by Muse. Um, but have you? I forget if you've watched it or not, but have you watched any of Stranger Things?
Not yet. We're gonna dive into that pretty soon here.
All right. So people were making fun of all of the people who are just going to start hearing about Metallica from this show, right? And they're going to learn about Metallica from this show.
Right, right. Yeah, I kind of followed along with with that part of it anyway.
So not only have I've been going back and listening to old Metallica just because it, brought it to the forefront of my mind, and it's never a bad time to listen to Metallica.
No.
But I was not a fan. Well, not I don't want to say I wasn't a fan. I wasn't really aware of Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush until I watched the show. So I'm not going to shit on these kids that are just learning about Metallica because I'm just learning about this song and I really like this song. So I've been listening to that a lot too.
Have you heard the Meg Myers version?
The who?
Meg Myers?
No, I haven't.
Check that one out of that song. It's awesome.
And then the other song that I was listening to a lot was you remember the movie Empire Records?
Yes.
All right. So I have the soundtrack and I had completely forgotten about the song Sugar High by Coyote Shivers.
Mm-hmm.
And for somehow or another that came up, like the movie came up or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah. And so I threw that song on a playlist because it's fucking cool.
Yeah, no, it's but no, definitely check out the Meg Myers version of the Running Up the Hill song. It's good. It's really good.
Okay.
In fact, I'm pretty certain it came through my feed because of Stranger Things. But I have no reference on video games right now. I periodically pick up Fall Guys. I sent you and Richie a text message the other day with 0 qualified. I've never seen that happen before. Does that happen to you?
I've never. Well, yes, we were doing the satellite mission. Have you been doing those at all?
I actually just added everything above like the classic.
Okay.
So like I haven't played. I played like a round of the team or squad or whatever they call it. One, and then but most of the time I just play the classic, like everyone for themselves, and that's what happened with me. So like I've had 2 instances where it's really funny. This one was we were playing like the one with the snowball that like rolls down the hill, and there's like 30 of us left, and but the weird thing is the map generated with so much ice that like pretty much everyone went almost immediately, and so there was 6 of us just running around trying not to like die. Well, then there's 2 of us, and the other guy saw me across the map, and he came over strictly just to push me off. And when he did that, I don't know what happened, but he fell with me.
Good.
So that's when it hit, and like when it hit 0 qualified, like it just froze for like a minute. It was like it didn't know what to do. It was really funny. But do you know the one game in there with the fruit where it like the fruit falls and you have to count it and whatever?
Yeah.
So
I hate that one.
Yeah. And so there was one that I did where we did the first round, I got through that. Then the second round was the fruit round, and that was the thing. So there's 40 or 42 of us or whatever it was that were in that for that one. It went from 40 to 4. Like because everyone like dropped out on one of the fruit things. It was insane. I've never seen it. So like I made the final round on 4, and that's the only time that I've ever won it was on that one.
Nice. So somebody was trolling. Like it must have been like 4 people working together and just trolling and like, oh, let's all go on this fruit.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, But the one thing that happened, and I don't know if they saw, like, I don't know if it was that or there was a piece of fruit that fell, but it kind of tucked itself underneath one of the things. And if
Oh,
you weren't standing in a specific spot and like really moving your camera around, like you couldn't see it.
okay.
And I did, and it just happened to be one of those weird, like, is it 3 or is it 4 type things? And yeah, and everyone just like went, and like the people that were on like the one little thing was like the tile was like, wait, we're all alive.
Nice.
um, no music. I sent you and Richie a couple weeks ago some on Cell Dweller, which I really would like to dig into that a little bit more. Um, guys like I don't know. It's weird. It reminds me a lot of Trent Reznor in the sense that he always has a lot of music projects going on, and I've really dug into his career and just different stuff, listening to a lot of his stuff. He's like an industrial band called Circle of Dust that I've listened to quite a bit. Dates back to the 80s, 90s. But it's weird how like your music sometimes kind of collides. Like your different genres and stuff that you listen to. So I only knew of the guy from my electronic stuff that I've always listened. That I've listened to that stuff for a long, long time. But I different remixes of stuff, and there's a particular song that someone else remixed of his, and I thought, yeah, this is really cool, and I always had it in a playlist, whatever. But I never was one to like. You always find like the one song where you're like, oh yeah, it's cool to put in a playlist, but you don't really like. I'm not going to really go out and venture into what else they do. I finally, for whatever reason, got into doing there's on Google Play Music, there's a discover setting. So it'll go through and you can kind of find new music, whatever. And a couple of the other pieces came through because it finally started going through my old playlists. And I was like, this is really good. And then I sent you guys the link about it and was like, holy crap, this thing, like, he has a whole album that everything's been licensed in some video games. And like, I'm looking at the game list and it's like stuff that you and I have played, like Crackdown, and like these
Oh,
really
shit.
yeah, it's like these insane things, a lot of just really, really cool stuff. Like I would have never known who it was, and then come to find out that like he has this really extensive catalog. The guy's in his 50s now, like he's just been making music. That's all he's been doing for like the last 2 or 3 decades or more, well, since the 80s, 4 decades. And just so I've listened a lot of him, and then a lot of Dance with the Dead, electronic stuff. It's great. And then I don't know. That's about it. Really, I really haven't. I've been kind of in that mindset. Let's well do one more thing. Have you watched any movies lately, other
I
than what
watched
tomorrow?
I watched Thor: Love and Thunder, and I loved it. People were talking shit on it, but honestly, what were they expecting? It was a
True.
fun superhero movie, popcorn flick. Um, there was a wrestling joke in it that got a big pop out of me. Um, so have you seen you've seen Thor Ragnarok, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know Korg, the big rock monster guy?
Yes.
So um so they're called Cronins. Um and he said one of my favorite lines, and I use this line all the time, and people look at me like I'm fucking stupid. But I always say piss off ghosts
hmm
because that's what he says. But anyway, so he's in this movie, and there's a part where he's talking about how he found his mate, and so Cronin are made out of rock. So his mate that he found, their name is Dwayne,
Uh,
and I'm like, get
that's
the
perfect. I like it.
yeah.
I like
So
it.
I really liked that. Um, but I watched that. I've been watching She-Hulk. I've been watching House of the Dragon and Harley Quinn, the cartoon.
Okay,
Which
not HQS.
no, not I'm not I don't I'm not watching the Richie and Harley Quinn Smith sex tapes. No, that's purely
um,
for them.
yeah, I've got nothing on anything that we're watching because we're just still going through Scrubs and whatnot again, whatnot. I do have one thing I want you to do though before we sign off.
Yeah.
I want you to check out your phone, and I want you to look at the score between me and Reebok in our fantasy league.
Don't tell me you fucking tied.
Oh,
Because
we
didn't
didn't.
it have you projected to tie?
We did initially, but look
All
at the
right, hold
score.
on. League scoreboard. So my uproarious laughter comes from Tom beating Reebok by 1/10 of a point, which is the bane of my fucking existence that we can win and lose by tenths of a point. But
I love it because we have the
oh
two
shit.
lowest scores in the league.
So not only that, but Metcalf's Cavs beat you play to win the game by 0.8 points.
Wow, that's another tight one.
Yeah, so Florida Man ended up only beating Shiny Balls 121.2 to 119.3. Like, so something must have happened in that game because a lot of things got a lot closer than they were when we went through.
And you know what the funny thing is? Reebok and I both had a player on our team that scored negative points. I, I had Mr. Psychoactive Plant Aaron Rodgers, and he had what the
Negative
heck?
0.7.
Yeah, he had what's his face, the running back from Buffalo, Cook.
Yeah.
I can't remember his first name. James Cook. With negative 1.3.
I thought it was bad. I thought it was bad that I had 2 players with 0 points on my team, but at least I didn't have anybody negative.
Oh yeah. Think about that. Our game was basically decided because Aaron Rodgers and James Cook were so bad. Like, and here's the thing that's funny. Look, the Packers lost. They lost pretty handily yesterday.
Mhm.
That like I said, yeah, I said on the recording, the 23-7 wasn't exactly a 23-7. It felt much worse than that. James Cook got negative 1.3 in a game that they won 31-10.
Dude. 2 yards and a fumble. He ran for 2 yards and a fumble. That's fucking amazing. That has to be one of the worst stat lines ever. Wait, all right, so recent news. Cook fumbled on his very first NFL rushing attempt in Thursday's win over the Rams and did not receive another carry or target in the passing
game. That poor guy.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I figured that was fun to close this out with. But yeah, so what are we at? DoubleWideCoffin.com.
HarambePox.com. Harley Quinn Smith ate Richie's balls.com. BigBeefyShootyBoys.com. AlwaysBeChupacabra.com. ChupacabraForDicks.com. Do you like Bears.com?